This is about Erin Brockovich and Pete Buttigieg. Now, you guys know I've been pretty critical of Pete. I think all of us at RBN have been about his job as Secretary of the Department of Transportation. He has not been doing a good job. When we look at this situation in East Palestine, Ohio, Pete just got there. He just arrived like a day or two ago. Erin Brockovich has been there. Donald Trump was there before Pete. So Erin Brockovich, I want to show you this clip here. Let me pause this for a second. And again, I just want to remind people who she is. Pull this up. So I want to show you two of these. People who are not aware, because some people may not be aware who she is. I'm going to share this here. Crazy stuff is happening, man. Erin Brockovich. So she is an American legal clerk, whistleblower, consumer advocate, and environmental activist who was instrumental in building a case against Pacific Gas and Electric Company. So it was PG&E, involving groundwater contamination in Hinckley, California, with the help of attorney Ed Masry in 1993. Her successful lawsuit was the subject of the Oscar-winning film Erin Brockovich. So if you haven't seen that movie, I highly recommend that you watch it. It's a really good movie. But what Erin Brockovich found, she was working as like a kind of like a legal aid secretary for a law company. And during her job, she found out that that company, PG&E, they were basically poisoning people in Hinckley, California. So it was a similar environmental catastrophe where the water was affected. So the people were actually getting sick from drinking the water. So there were people in that town, in that community, that had developed cancer, adults and kids, and it was all because of that company. So that's why Erin Brockovich is really passionate about what is happening in East Palestine, Ohio right now. And she had some things to say. So she did decide to visit East Palestine, Ohio. And let's hear from her. And this is another shout out here from Case Study QB. Erin Brockovich on the East Palestine train derailment location. And I want to remind you again, she was there before Pete Buttigieg, and she's there before Joe Biden. Joe Biden still hasn't been there. Joe Biden is in, over there in Kyiv with Zelensky. So the president of the United States, this woman showed up before the president of the United States has. And I don't even know if Joe Biden is going to show up there. Let's listen to what she had to say.
Erin Brockovich, she is an environmental activist who helped the people of Hinckley, California. You'll remember so well, win millions against PG&E over that toxic water caused by them in the 90s. Julia Roberts, of course, won the Oscar for playing her in the movie, her namesake movie. Erin is in East Palestine helping the people there. You're a hero to a lot of us, and you're, I think, going to be a hero to the people of East Palestine. So good morning and thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Can we talk about where you think, given all your experience, what you did in Hinckley and what you've done since, where do you place this disaster in the larger context of disasters?
Like one I've never seen. I've been doing this for 30 years now, and the lack of information that has not been given to these people, that they've been almost left here not knowing what's going on, where to go, what to do, who to turn to, their fear. I mean, all of it feels very remnant to me of what happened in Hinckley, and a community that we're showing up pretty late to the game that's already been through a lot. And my biggest concern from day one has been the people and what it is they don't know, what it is we need to find out quickly for their health and safety. And they're still so uncertain about their safety and coming back to this town.
I want to chime in here for a second. I've noticed the people that are on the ground in East Palestine, Ohio, I noticed none of these people are wearing any type of mask protection. And I am very concerned about the air quality that's in East Palestine right now because of the chemical explosion that happened there. Now, the EPA, I guess they've said that the air is safer now or whatever. But I just saw there were 3 kids that were interviewed. I think it was on Status Quo. And the kids were saying that like their noses won't stop running and that their eyes are burning and people are having headaches. But when they leave the town, that goes away. And that right there lets me think that it's still possible that there could be remnants of the chemicals in the air. And that's very concerning to me because I've seen her, I've seen Pete, I've seen Trump, people who are there, and also the people who live there in the community, and they're not wearing any type of protection to protect them from the air. Yes, Zach, concerning lack of PPE. Yeah, I'm worried about that because you're still breathing it in. And I don't know, fam. I don't know. I think I would have some type of protection there if it were me.
You know, one of the real issues and tragedies of Hinckley and the deaths there is the trust. They trusted the company. You know, they trusted officials who just didn't tell them the truth. And I wonder, do you believe when these people in East Palestine hear the EPA administrator, for example, told our colleague Sarah Seidner yesterday, the water has been tested, the air has been tested and coming back with no adverse health impact levels. That's a quote. Should the people of East Palestine trust that and drink the water?
No. Because let's be real. Am I supposed to trust what the EPA is saying about this at this point in time? No. No, they're going to try to cover their own self. And people need to really understand that. Really understand. They're going to try to protect Norfolk Southern Railway. Now, you need to ask yourself, these residents in this town, they had a meeting, a town hall, where pretty much from what I saw in the video, it looked like a lot of people showed up asking, is it safe to be here? What are the next steps? Where is the president of the United States? What is happening, right? You know who did not show up, who was supposed to be there? Norfolk Southern Railway. They didn't even show up. So this train derails in this town and the people are being slowly poisoned by the chemicals that were released, and the company responsible for it doesn't even make an appearance at the town hall. And the company responsible for it, you need to look at their shareholders because one of them is BlackRock. So here you have people like Pete Buttigieg and people like Joe Biden, who's been pretty kind of silent on this, basically running cover to protect Norfolk Southern instead of trying to help and protect the people. Remember those railroad workers that wanted to go on strike? Remember those guys? I interviewed them. You know what was one of the things they complained about besides the sick pay that they wanted? One of the things that they complained about was that they removed safety regulations and they laid people off. So they did not have enough employees and it was not safe. And all those people who voted against them, like the squad members, they've been pretty silent about this issue. You look pretty foolish now. You really do. Let's go on.
Well, as I said, I've seen the pictures with the water, and I've shared before, that is in a moment that the water is safe. That doesn't mean that's what the conditions will be tomorrow. And I think this is something that's really important. They had an acute, immediate exposure when they lit all those chemicals on fire. We've had all kinds of soot and chemicals rain out on them. And what happens in the water is a process that takes time. How this chemical will travel with the water, how long it will take to get to a municipality, to a well water. Those are two different conversations. So I feel it's a little bit misleading in a moment that I don't want to say sensationalized, but in a moment where the water has yet to march out, that you can say it's safe, but you cannot give that assurance that that will be the condition tomorrow or a month from now or 2 months from now.
And
that piece is very important. And let's also remember too, just because they may not have any effects, I told you about the runny noses and the headaches and what was the other thing it said? Runny nose, headaches, and they said, oh, the burning eyes. Okay. Those are the effects, immediate effects that they're seeing right now. This does not predict the long-term effects that they may have later on down the road. Who's to say that these people in this town are not going to develop cancer? Who's to say that these people in this town years from now down the road are not going to develop asthma? This is environmental pollution, and it usually impacts working class, poor neighborhoods. So this is something that we really need to be paying close attention to. They may not have those issues right now. It could be 5 years from now or 10 years from now before they start to see multiple cancers pop up, right? So these kind of things have happened in Hinckley, California. It has happened in West Virginia. It has happened in certain rural towns in South Carolina. That's what people have to understand. And there's no way to tell if that is going to be the case. So what should be done? First and foremost, the town should be evacuated. First and foremost. By the way, for people telling them, well, they can leave and then come back later. Come back later to what? Come back later to what? And if they evacuate the town, if they do that, if they evacuate the town, then the people would have to sell their homes. Who's going to buy these homes, people? Who's going to buy these homes besides a company like BlackRock? Think about it. Let's go on. And then I'm going to show you what Pete Buttigieg is saying about all this, because you know he's trying to protect himself.
I keep thinking about here in New York after 9/11 and the air and the impact years and years later on the first responders. Erin, can you just listen to this from Jim Stewart, East Palestine resident who said this to the CEO of Norfolk Southern last night on CNN? Listen.
Now, I'm 65 years old, a diabetic, AFib heart disease, everything. Now, did you shorten my life now? I want to retire and enjoy it. How are we going to enjoy it? You burned me. We were going to sell our house. Our value went poof.
What I tell you, just like that, the value goes down. Don't nobody want to move. Ain't nobody going to want to move there. Ain't nobody going to move there. Keep in mind, this is one of those Rust Belt towns. For those who are not aware, it's on the border of Ohio and Pennsylvania. This part of the Rust Belt. So you don't have that many people trying to move there anyway, because a lot of the jobs were shipped overseas because of NAFTA. Now you're really not going to have people trying to move there. They don't want to deal with that.
What recourse do these people deserve?
Well, we'd be foolish to say that obviously Norfolk is going to get sued. I hear and feel that community member so much. And this is the biggest message of all. I mean, we can't just take a situation like this and everybody is going to actually respond the same. You have autoimmune conditions, you have people who are sick, you have children, you have aging people. They will all metabolize these chemicals in a very different way. They've lost their homes. The first thing I would say, Norfolk Southern Railroad is not your friend. I find it extremely frustrating that they're there wanting to assure them everything is okay, when in fact it wasn't. Look, I've had so many of the railroad workers reach out to me who were whistleblowers, that they knew where these derailment sites were. They knew they have a corporate model that isn't working very well. It is profits over people. You're cutting your maintenance. You're not dealing with your infrastructure. You knew a disaster like this could happen, and it happened. And these people are suffering. What will become of their homes? What will become of their community? What is their future health care? This is very, very frightening to them. And so, Norfolk, don't think you're my friend. I wouldn't trust you. I don't think this community should trust you. And
I agree. I don't think they should be trusted either. And I want to point out something here that Colin said that I think is very important, and we need to be talking about this. Colin said no one is talking about emergency health care. Now, why would Colin say that? Because I want to remind you of what happened in a town called Libby, Montana. Libby, Montana has Medicare for all. Everyone in the town has it because they had a similar situation in the sense where I forget if it was I thought it was like some type of air pollution. Anywho, everyone there they were sick because of it. And because of that, they were actually able to argue, I believe this was during Obama's term, they were able to argue that you needed to give everyone in that town health care because of what happened there. Why isn't anyone in that town right now? And I'm going to reach out to the railroad workers again to see if I can get them to come back on. And I'm also going to reach out to Dennis Kucinich to see if I can get him to come on to ask, where is the push for the town of East Palestine, Ohio, to give everybody Medicare for all in that town? These people are already sick. Listen to what I'm telling you. The running noses, the burning eyes, the headaches. These people are already sick. And I'm pretty sure everybody in that town does not have health insurance. Thank you, Cinnabarb. Asbestos from the local mines. That's what it was. That's what happened in Libby, Montana. So this is something that people should be pushing for right now. Now, Dennis Kucinich is in Ohio. He was a mayor of Cleveland. He was also a congressman, but then he later on went on to become the mayor of Cleveland. So I would like to get him on to talk to him about that and ask him, like, where's the push to give everybody in that town health care? You have a fair argument.
And obviously, you're going to get sued.
Erin Brockovich.
We need to find help and restitution for these people. This is about these people and their future.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being a voice for them very much, Erin.
And one thing I want to add to here, I want to make really clear to people, a company like that, when you have a shareholder who's BlackRock, even the lawsuit, that's not going to cripple them. You can sue them for millions of dollars. They'll still be fine. They'll still be fine. So that's the other thing too, is like, what are you going to do for these people? What are you going to do for them? Now, I want to bring up this clip here from Pete Buttigieg because, you know, he's finally doing interviews now and not running and hiding, although he did run and hide on another one, though, I did see. When people were asking him, why is it taking him so long to get here? Now, he had an interview here with Joy, and apparently there was criticism. Shout out to Case Study QB for this. Pete Buttigieg's response to Tucker Carlson's accusations that East Palestine, Ohio is not getting support because they are mostly poor white Trump supporters. Now, before I get into this clip, I want to remind you, the women on The View, I can't play it on here because of copyright, but the women on The View, you got Joy Behar out there saying, well, this is their fault because that town voted for Trump. They shouldn't have voted for Trump. Excuse me? So people deserve to be poisoned? They deserve to be poisoned by chemicals because of who they voted for? Joy? Where's the push? You see how this works? All that push to remove, like Whoopi Goldberg, right? Where's the push to remove Joy Behar for that comment that she made? You ain't gonna see that. You're not gonna see it. So let's hear what Pete had to say about the criticism about Biden and his involvement or his lack of involvement in reference to East Palestine, Ohio.
These kinds of man-made disasters have happened. We saw it in Flint. We've seen it in Jackson. You know, we've seen them all. And normally the thing that these communities have in common is that they're not rich, that they're communities that are not wealthy. And so the train lines go through their communities. Let me just play you what Tucker Carlson had to say, because the reason Trump went there is he has this "you're forgotten" meme that he wants to keep going with. Here's Tucker Carlson adding to that and throwing in the aspect of race.
Well, apparently the people were forgotten. The people were forgotten. They were a part of the Rust Belt. NAFTA took their jobs. They were forgotten. When it came to the 2016 election, Hillary Clinton didn't even want to go to the Rust Belt. She didn't even want to campaign there. So they were forgotten then too. And apparently they're forgotten right now, because where is the president of the United States? Let's go on.
East Palestine is overwhelmingly white, and it's politically conservative. More than 70% of the voters in the surrounding counties supported Donald Trump in the last election. That shouldn't be relevant, but as you're about to hear, it very much is. Imagine if this had happened in, well, the favored cities of Philadelphia and Detroit. If this affected the rich or the favored poor, it would be the lead of every news channel in the world.
Gonna go ahead and debunk that right there. In reference to the wealth part, he's correct. In reference to this wouldn't happen in a wealthy neighborhood, it wouldn't, because the trains wouldn't run through a wealthy neighborhood to begin with anyway. So let's just be real. Environmental pollution usually is not happening in those wealthy neighborhoods. They're not having to worry about their drinking water for the most part. Now, the part here about, well, if it was Detroit or Philadelphia would be different. Ask people who live in Detroit about that. Ask Rome just how much the U.S. government has tried to help out Detroit. Ask Rome about that. So Tucker Carlson is wrong about that. Was a bad example. You probably could have mentioned another city, but that one, no. Detroit is falling apart and crumbling. And it's been that way for years, especially when the manufacturing went away in Detroit. So I don't know what, that was a bad example. Don't know where he was going with that one. In reference to cities like Jackson, Mississippi, and Flint, Michigan, look how long it took the federal government to actually even intervene there. I mean, Flint had what? Dirty water for how long before President Obama even showed up and stepped foot in Flint? And then he pretended to drink a glass of water that he didn't even drink. So I don't think that was a good example. Nice try, though, but that still does not excuse Pete or Biden.
But it happened to the poor, benighted town of East Palestine, Ohio, whose people are forgotten and, in the view of the people who lead this country, forgettable.
By the way, I will note that it's been the lead on this show multiple times, including tonight, which is why you're here in our A block. And Detroit is like right near Flint. But anyway, I'm going to allow you to respond, because this is a meme that keeps people in places like Palestine voting for people like Donald Trump, who then deregulate the train lines that poison them. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where Tucker Carlson was when they were trying to dismantle the EPA, which is now maybe the main thing standing between the people of East Palestine and ecological disaster.
So this is the narrative that they're running with. And yes, they're correct that it was Donald Trump. He was the one that rolled back the regulations. That was Donald Trump who did that. But here's my question. You guys knew that. Joe Biden's been in office for over a year. Why were the regulations not put back in place the moment Joe Biden took office? Why did it take this disaster happening to make them say, okay, we need to put those safety regulations back in place? Why did all that need to even happen? You mean to tell me, like, let's think about this, people. Trump was totally wrong for that and shouldn't have done that. At the same time, Joe Biden's been in office for over a year. So the moment you resume office, you've had plenty of time to put those regulations back in place, and you chose not to. The only reason they're trying to do it now is because of what happened in East Palestine, Ohio. We need to be real here. We need to be real.
Look, they're always ready to take it back to race. But the reality is that we're going to serve everybody. That's how this administration works. We're not out there to bring resentment. We're out there to bring results.
If you're going to serve everybody, then how come the president hasn't been there? How come he's with Zelensky right now overseas instead of in East Palestine, Ohio, if you're trying to serve everybody? Let me break it down to you and tell you what's really going on. You see, the Democratic Party, they already know they lost Ohio. Sorry, but this is how my mind works. They already know they lost Ohio. Me and Max were talking about this the other night. So if they know they already lost Ohio, that it's no longer considered to be a swing state per se, and the Republicans have captured Ohio, then there's no sense of urgency for Joe Biden to go there and try to make things right for the people. And I'll give you an example with Pennsylvania. When that bridge collapsed in Pennsylvania, Joe Biden was there immediately. Immediately. But again, Pennsylvania's blue again. Biden won Pennsylvania. And then we have to bring it back to the class issue and we have to be real about it. They don't care about poor people. They don't care about working class people. Like I told you, this would have never happened in Beverly Hills. Would not happen. But in these working class communities, especially in the Rust Belt, they don't care about you. And I hope the residents there really see this and take that in. And seriously sit back and say, damn, our own government doesn't care about us.
And what our focus was today, and our focus, by the way, from the first hours when we had our Department of Transportation personnel on the ground, from those very first hours in this response all the way through today and well into the future for as long as it takes. The focus is to make sure that people get the information they need, the support that they need, and the accountability that is needed for corporations like Norfolk Southern to clean up this mess. There is a long pattern of voices like that in the ideological media, let's call it that.
He was struggling there for a bit, y'all. He was struggling there for a bit, guys.
Trying to pit people against each other, only to turn around and support policies that are especially hard on working class and low income people of every race. Because one thing, you know how a broken clock is right at least twice a day. One thing he's exactly right about is that environmental disasters tend to happen more frequently and more painfully to lower income communities. We call that environmental justice, and yet if I use those words, I'm sure he'll be the first one to say that we're too woke to be paying attention to the bread and butter of our jobs. Part of the bread and butter of our job is to keep people safe from being harmed or killed.
If that's part of the bread and butter of your job, then why didn't you guys put the safety regulations back in place when Democrats took back control of the White House? If that's part of your job, then why are you just now getting to East Palestine, Ohio? Someone asked him that on Twitter, by the way. He wouldn't answer the question. And his aide was with him and she was like, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to be on camera. Let me see if I can find that. I'll play this. Let me see if I can find that.
Which is what regulation, sometimes an unpopular word, is all about. It's what enforcement is all about. It's what accountability is all about. We restored some of that regulation and enforcement and accountability that was stripped away when we got here. I know that's going on the EPA side. That's definitely going on with us on the Department of Transportation side. And we will continue that as long as we have this honor of serving, because what we came here to do is to protect every American, and I mean every American, who comes into contact with our transportation system.
Well, I want to thank you, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. Thank you. And I want to note to our audience that I should have mentioned Tucker Carlson, the person who we now know, per the Dominion lawsuit, lies to his audience when he's behind the scenes saying what he really believes.
You do too. All of you guys lie. You, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, all of you guys are liars. Let's stop pretending like it's just Fox News, because it's not, people. Now, I think I found that video. Give me just a second, because I do want to play that clip where they were trying to get Pete to answer this question. I'm sorry, it's kind of funny. Let's go into it. Get over here. Here's one of them. Let's see this one. I decided to ask Pete Buttigieg how long he is going to keep blaming Trump for all of Pete's own failures.
He's been Secretary of Transportation for 2 years now. How long can you blame the Trump administration for all your failures?
I would say this. I will take responsibility for how I do my job. It is time for the Trump administration alumni to take responsibility for their deregulation and join us in calling for us all as a country to reverse course.
Okay, well, why don't you just reverse course, Brett? I'm not. I'm just a Twitter guy.
So that the woman at the end, hold on. The woman at the end of the video, that's his assistant. Let me see. Yeah, that's his assistant. She was the one that said she didn't want to be on camera. Why she didn't want to be on camera, I don't know. It kind of comes with the job. Kind of comes with the job. Is that the one? That's Turning Point USA. Just keep that in mind. They're going to be biased too. That's not the one. I was trying to find that one. Oh, here it is. I think this is the one.
How was your personal time, Mayor Pete? How was your personal time?
We're on our way to answer questions. Right?
After 20 days, why should the people of East Palestine actually trust you now? Why do you take pictures of young reporters and they're not allowed to take pictures of you? How was your personal?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. It's funny. I think there's another one too. This one. Listen to this one from the White House. Boy, they really do run cover. They really do. Professor Zinkas is correct. Look, Professor Zinkas says Joe Biden needs to resign. Pete Buttigieg needs to resign. Mike DeWine needs to resign. The executive of Norfolk Southern need to be charged with felonies and face lengthy prison sentences. But listen to the cover up here.
I do want to say one thing, though, which is there's been a lot of bad faith attacks on Secretary Buttigieg. And the reason why we believe it's bad faith is if you remember Elaine Chao, she was, she was the head of Department of Transportation. And when there was these types of chemical spills, nobody was calling for her to be fired. And nobody was calling for what they're calling on Secretary Pete.
It's not just this one incident. That's why. It's not just this one incident. It's also because of what's happening with the airlines. But you know they run cover for their party. They run cover for their peeps. That's a big part of the problem. See, they caught him here too. We are in week 3 since controlled explosion of dangerous chemicals in East Palestine. Pete Buttigieg is merely taking some personal time and will not answer for his department's utter failure. Democrats are evil. There is no lesser of two evils. Now, this is from Nuno. So let's see this. This one's a short one too.
Secretary, what do you have to say? Hi, how are you?
Good.
Jenny's here at the Daily Caller News Foundation. What do you have to say to the folks in Ohio, East Palestine, who are suffering right now?
Well, I'd refer you to about a dozen interviews I've given today. And if you'd like to arrange a conversation, be sure to reach out to our press office. But I'll have that conversation with you. Just
You don't have a message for them?
I do, and I shared it with the press many times today. I'd refer you to those comments.
Would you mind sharing it with us?
No, I'm going to refer you to the comments that I made to the press because right now I'm taking some personal time and I'm walking down the street.
Are you going down there?
What's that?
Are you going down there at all?
Yeah, I am.
When are you going?
I'll share that when I'm ready.
Okay, thank you.
It wasn't a priority to Pete. It wasn't a priority. I'm taking some personal time. The same personal time that apparently the railroad workers don't get. I'm going to take my personal time. Do you know when you're going to go down there, Pete? I'll let you know when I do. It wasn't a priority. There was no sense of urgency. That's our government. That's our government.